Third policy answer webinar focus on aligning priorities in the Western Balkans with those of the EU across three thematic policy areas: digital, green, and health. For those who don't know, Policy Answers is an EU Horizon Europe project which has the goal to support research and innovation policymaking in the Western Balkans. The first three webinars focus on presentations by regional experts, providing an overview of the Western Balkans pathway to implement the digital agenda, modern health policies, and green agenda. The third webinar today is dedicated to the topic of the Green Deal and the Western Balkans pathway to implement the green agenda. And it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Professor Djordje Djatkov. Djordje is Associate Professor at the Faculty of, just want to move to the next slide here. Sorry, okay. So Djordje is an Associate Professor at the Faculty of Technical Sciences of the University in Novi Sad. He is specialized in the field of biomass as a resource for renewable energy with a focus on achieving sustainability across different fields like decarbonization, reduction of greenhouse gas emission, circular bioeconomy, biofuels, among other fields. And Professor Djatkov has had experience working at the Bavarian State Research Center for Agriculture. He was a fellow of Humboldt Foundation at the Hamburg University of Technology. He's actively engaged in many national and international research projects, and currently he's a steering committee member of the Serbian Biogas Association. After his presentation, which will last 25 minutes, we will have 10 minutes for questions and answers. But this time we decided to prolong the session for those of you who would like to extend discussion with Djordje. So we will make, after 40 minutes, we will make 1 minute break, and then we offer you additional 20 minutes for the discussion. So Djordje, thank you very much for accepting our invitation, and the floor is now yours. I stop sharing my screen.
Thank you very much, Sanja. It is also my pleasure to collaborate with you on this project and on this topic. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you see my screen now. I can start just.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Today's topic is the green agenda and green transition with challenges, practices, and recommendations. Nowadays, we live with many challenges and existing threats as well, related to climate change, to polluted environment, to sustainability, impaired health, energy and food security as well, and also not so positive geopolitical situation. European Union responded to these challenges and threats, to some of them, by developing European Green Deal. This is a development strategy for the next century and opportunity to transform the society into a resilient and sustainable one. Green Agenda for Western Balkans has the same objectives as the European Green Deal, and it's somehow the connection between Western Balkan countries, economies, and European Union. Therefore, economic and investment plan for Western Balkan countries was developed, and Western Balkan leaders endorsed Sofia Declaration in November 2020. After that, Regional Cooperation Council organization from Sarajevo developed action plan for the implementation of the Green Agenda for the Western Balkans, and in autumn 2023 published implementation report on this topic. So, what is actually Green Agenda? on Western Balkans. It has the same structure as the European Green Deal, consisting of 5 pillars related to decarbonization, circular economy, depollution, sustainable agriculture, protection of nature and biodiversity. This is the green transition topic, but somehow its actions are wrapped with digital transformation as well. And of course, the impact on health is very clear. But these 3 topics are somehow defined by the word complexity. It is very complex, interrelated, and in order to achieve objectives, some synergetic effects could be provided. Okay, in the next few slides, shown are assessment results of the framework conditions in Western Balkan countries related to Green Agenda. They are related to specific pillars. And within, for example, decarbonization, we have separately climate action roadmap, energy roadmap, and sustainable transport roadmap. Moving to circular economy pillar, depollution, sustainable agriculture and food systems, and biodiversity and nature. These results are based on RCC, Regional Cooperation Council implementation report, which are mostly qualitatively described. But in order to deliver a report for this project, I developed a very simple approach which enabled me to quantify these results, and the results are following. In general, the framework conditions, namely laws and by-law documents, national strategies, action plans, and so on, related to Green Agenda are, I might say, half ready, between 30 and 50%. And surprisingly, decarbonization, which is the most complex one pillar, has the highest grade. And the results can be seen also per Western Balkan economy. What about challenges? The first challenge is, according to my opinion, capacities or missing capacities. This is just one example of Just Transition Fund related to support of vulnerable regions to transform energy systems from coal-based power plants to renewable energies and green energy sources. So far, Western Balkan is not eligible. But in order, for example, to use such opportunities, we need capacities at all levels. One of the results from other projects or reports is that maybe public opinion on the status or opportunities for reforming the energy system, and what are the most relevant problems. In all Western Balkan countries, more than 1,000 interviewees were asked to answer, and the answers were related mostly to economic hardship, corruption, and energy crisis. These are the most relevant problems. Also, they were asked whether the European Union requirements are too high. Most of them, or the largest share, answered yes. This is the requirements are too high. A slightly lower share is answer is that the requirements are adequate. What about climate change or decarbonization pillar related to climate? The largest issue is actually the source of greenhouse gas emissions, which are with no doubt coming from the energy sector. You may see on the left side of the diagram that this sector is dominant in all Western Balkan economies. Related to trend of overall greenhouse gas emissions, comparing, for example, with the level of 1990, there is certain decrease in the level of annual greenhouse gas emissions, but this is maybe related to population decrease or not so intensive industry as in that time. But in recent year, there is no significant reduction of greenhouse gas emissions in this region, whereby the CO2 and from energy sector by combustion or burning of fossil fuels is the dominant contributor. Sources of emissions of pollutants. Here are presented, for example, NOx emissions and particulate matter 2.5. NOx emissions in some countries are originating from power industry, meaning from electricity generation, and in some countries you may see this power industry is blue, and in some countries road transport by this yellow field on the diagram. But for someone surprisingly, for me not, dust emissions, or on this example, particular PM 2.5, are dominantly originating from household, meaning emissions from small boilers and stoves intended for cooking and heating of residential space. But this is not a surprise for me, because within one previous project with Joint Research Center from Ispra, Italy, we determined that about 50% of energy used in household for cooking and heating is actually coming from solid fuels, meaning biomass and coal. Related to sulfur oxide emissions, power industry is the main reason for it. For example, if you see this graph with top 10 power plants in Europe with total SO2 emissions in Europe, 8 out of 10 are coming from Western Balkan economies. And the additional problem is that in this region, the coal is actually lignite with high sulfur content. If the question is whether the level of emissions are appropriate in this region, the following graph shows that actually the exceedance of particular emissions like SOx, dust emissions, and NOx are actually above the limit. The limit you may see on with this red line, and actually the value here represents the intensity, how much time the exceedance is present in certain country. And in this case, SOx emissions are dominant and have in some cases between 6 and 9 times even exceedance above the approved or ceiling values. Something related to circular economy. There is much space for improvement. If we look at this specific figure, which is calculated as the ratio of GDP and kilogram of and mass of resources used, this figure is even more than 4 times higher in European Union than in Western Balkan region. Sorry for this short break, but I'm not all the time able to change the slide like now. Yes. Something related to air pollution. Almost all pollutants are critical in this region. This is just one example for the particulate matter 10 and the parameter daily maximum. And as you can see from this very explaining graph, there is exceedance of daily maximum values in all economies of the region. And additional information, if you look at this figure, this is the number of allowed days with exceedance of daily maximum value. And in some countries, we have even half of the year present the exceedance of this parameter. And not only the air quality is the problem, also the monitoring network is, there is a very much room for improvement, meaning that number of measuring stations with continuous monitoring of all relevant pollutants and their parameters are needed to improve the monitoring side and to propose the mitigation measures and improvement of air quality. Relation to health, air pollution caused, for example, here is presented parameter death rate, and we can see that figures presented for Western Balkan region are worse than European Union, and additional information that in European Union death rate, meaning number of deaths per 100,000 inhabitants, in European Union is decreasing, and actually in Western Balkan region is increasing by the time. Similarly, can be concluded looking at this specific parameter, years of life lost, but interesting information that neighboring European countries around Western Balkan region show very similar figures like our region, yes, like Western Balkan. Related to agriculture, there is also much room for improvement. For example, selected 2 figures. For example, share of area under organic farming in the total area of agricultural land in Western Balkan region is only 2%, and more than 4 times is present figure in European Union. Related to reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture, there is as well no significant changes. There are no significant changes in the recent years, showing that implementation of framework for green transition is not at the satisfying level yet. Related to nature and biodiversity, the last pillar, for example, this species protection index shows that in some countries high number of protected sites are present, and also that there is a growing number of protected sites, meaning that the trend is increasing. This is very positive for this period. Related to best examples, this is actually extracted information from conducted interviews within this study I performed for the Policy Answers project. And actually, more or less, all interviewed relevant experts presented best examples which are actually, I might say, individual cases or not coordinated cases. Even in some cases, they stated these were the results of few enthusiastic individuals at some institutions. And this is not so satisfying level to conduct green transition. At the end, instead of conclusions, recommendations might sound trivial, but public awareness should be raised, and to initiate public discussions. This topic is very complex and has, as we saw, a lot of challenges. We need to improve capacities of all potential contributors to this topic, to the implementation, of course. For example, external organizations should be included as well in policy making. We need to support financially vulnerable groups because this aspect is connected to social aspect, social challenge, and to mitigate negative outcomes, to, for example, to remain employment from coal sector into the green sector and so on. We need to enhance utilization of existing financing instruments and projects. Of course, so far the level of utilization is not satisfying. There are opportunities, but the capacities in order to utilize these opportunities are missing. We need to improve cooperation and coordination, but at all levels, at regional, economy-based, and at the local level. And finally, my recommendation would be to facilitate cooperation of national administration, meaning ministries, with industries, with authorities at municipal level, at local level, with academia, within concrete projects and activities, in order to be able to conduct green transition. And I see this as maybe as a crucial point to be improved in the future, of course. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Djordje, for this excellent presentation. I think complexity is really the right word here, because it's a really incredible connection of different fields when we talk about this Green Deal and Green Agenda. And again, thanks for sharing your insight, knowledge, and all this information. Also, thank you very much for keeping to the time. You only had 20 minutes. You could you could spend even more, but I'm really now happy to open discussion with you. And I see here a number of specialists in the field of Green Deal. So I invite all of you now to ask questions to Djordje or to make any comment you want. You can either directly ask question or you can put question in chat. So I now open the floor for discussions. Please. Okay, Claudio, please. And thanks for joining this webinar.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Just give me an okay.
We hear you.
Yeah, you can listen. Okay. Yes, I would like us to compliment Djordje for this excellent presentation. Also, the putting together different topics that are, as you said, it's toward the complexity and trying to make sense out of all the data we are generating here. By the way, I take also the opportunity to mention that Djordje is one of the main actors in the new version of the report that the JRC is preparing. He anticipated some of the figures, but there will be much more in the new report. And I think that the effort is important. That this analysis that Djordje made in order to merge together different fields, it's really important. And my question will be, if Djordje, you can maybe suggest, in which fields do you think so the contribution could be in the case of the JRC, but from the European Commission? So how will you see the areas where the support is more needed in financial terms, or how do you see that the support could be, let's say, how could we do better in order to promote the implementation of the green agenda? Thank you.
Thank you, Claudio, for your question, and it is nice to meet you again. Thank you for participating. My answer would be, beside financial contribution, knowledge. Support with specific expert knowledge in all fields. That is for sure missing. We don't have, as I said several times during the presentation, we don't have sufficient capacities. Certain capacity is existing in the country, but in order, for example, I'm also facing that on my personal example, that potential activities and requests to join some projects in this field of decarbonization and green agenda and so on is increasing all the time. That means not sufficient number of maybe persons, even at universities, are competent maybe to stand this, how to say, blast of coming activities which are needed to conduct green transition. That means supporting knowledge, for sure.
But you made a good point. So in fact, you are a good example on how the collaboration, you started collaboration with JRC a long time ago, and now you are taking your protagonist of this analysis that you made on your own. So it's a good example on how the collaboration with the European institution can also improve the capabilities of the Western Balkan experts. So you are indeed maybe our best example of expert from the Western Balkans that is taking the lead in this activity, and we are very proud of this.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I now see Miroslav. You have a question?
Yes, well, it's more like a comment both to Professor Djatkov's presentation, but also to Claudio's question as well. First of all, I would like to congratulate to Professor Djatkov for excellent presentation and data presented there. And I fully agree with his recommendation when we talk about cooperation between Western Balkan institutions and EU institutions, that capacity building is probably the most important. One comment in relation to that is that since the nuclear summit in Brussels a month ago, Serbia is openly talking about application of nuclear energy. The main problem about that, beside the legal issue, are capacity problems in Serbia in the nuclear sector. So when we think about that, we probably should recommend both to European institutions, but also I would like maybe to recommend to leaders of the Policy Answers project to think about capacity building in nuclear sector, which will change the situation in the energy policy mix in the Western Balkans, not within next few years, probably at least within 2 decades, starting from now. But I would strongly recommend to think about that and not to wait until it's too late to help region. For example, some sort of foresight activities and then backcasting from that, saying, okay, well, if we want to have nuclear energy application in the region in the next 15 years, now we have to do this and that. And that might be something where JRC or similar organization could help. Another issue which I would like to recommend is that let's once again think about Western Balkan as part of the Europe as a continent. Western Balkan is surrounded by EU member states, and when you think about, for example, nuclear energy application, we should think about countries surrounding Western Balkan and capacities in those countries, and trying really to share the knowledge in the wider region, not only focusing on the Western Balkan. But as I said, maybe since we have this kind of webinars within Policy Answers, one of the webinars before the end of the Policy Answers project might be dedicated to discussion or presentation about application of nuclear energy in the region and capacity building on that topic. Thank you.
So, Djordje, you want to comment?
Yes, maybe to add that before this this news, the answer, how will we manage decarbonization in our region, was only question mark. Meaning that nuclear energy is considered maybe as a clean. It's not renewable, but it's clean. But for example of Serbia, 70% of electricity is generated from coal, from lignite. And even introducing new and disruptive technology until 2050, this is not, how to say, manageable with diversification of different energy sources. Besides introducing something like that, that is my personal opinion. I mean that we would not be able only from renewables to decarbonize the region, Serbia and other countries as well.
And maybe also Europe as a whole. I now see Paulina. She wants to ask a question. Paulina, please.
Yes, hello. I am coming from Macedonia. I hope you hear me. My internet connection is not so good, so I will not turn on my video, not to get into a situation where you will not hear my question. I would like, first of all, to thank Professor for the excellent presentation. You have really made an excellent presentation of the results and the amount of data you have collected and analyzed firsthand. I've been working in the area of climate change in Macedonia and in the region for many, many years. And I would like to compliment the recommendations that you have provided. I fully agree about the knowledge management issue, and therefore I'm not sure whether it would be possible to further detail the recommendation in terms of, I think there is necessity to develop a knowledge management action plan or strategy for the Western Balkans. That would be really a good and sustainable solution how to enhance, how to improve knowledge management in this area, because I really believe there are people that know about these issues, that have experience, but either they don't have an opportunity to share it, or there is no, let's say, relationship, institutional, how to say it, governance, when it comes to cooperation between institution and the science sector. So these are all project-related and scattered activities, and I believe this should be more streamlined somehow. On the public awareness, there are many public awareness activities in the country, but the main issue is that they are very general. And as such, I'm not sure that they would provide excellent feedback if additional money is investment in another public awareness project, if the messages that are conveyed are general. So for this, maybe it would be good to engage with the civil society sector, because they are maybe the voice that can connect the science and the public. And about capacity building, there have been number of capacity building projects. I think that people are really tired of attending one more webinar and one more training and one more stuff. So I know that all of the countries in the Western Balkans have implemented this capacity building initiative for enhancing transparency. These are capacity building projects that are financed by UNFCCC. And Serbia is currently planning to go to the second stage. So I suggest that to the extent possible, green agenda is maybe introduced through these existing activities, and trying to really increase the quality of the trainings instead of the number of trainings. That would be all from my side. I don't have questions. I just wanted to provide additional input and to thank you once again for the excellent feedback. Thank you.
Thanks, Pavlina. And maybe you want to comment, Claudia? Oh, sorry, Claudia, not Claudia. First comment, Djordje, and then I give the words to Claudia.
Yes.
Or you want Claudia? I don't, yeah.
Okay, I will shortly reply. Thanks for this compliment. And as you said, it's not too late for your compliment, since we will generate policy brief and maybe include your contribution to this. Thank you.
Claudia?
Maybe I would like just to, let's say, recall one activity from the JRC. I mean, it's not that I want just to talk about ourselves only, but I think the topic is very much connected to the discussion, and is well known by some of you, in particular by Professor Veskovic, who was one of the let's say protagonists and also the enablers of the activity. And I'm talking about the summer school that the JRC and the University Novi Sad organized last year, and that was exactly in the direction of supporting this summer school on environment. Was dedicated to experts from the region, and the idea was to increase the capability and ability for young scientists and for advanced students. And this was really very successful, thanks also to the great support and the professionality of the colleagues from the University of Novi Sad, together with the colleagues from the JRC. And by the way, this activity, we had a recognition. It was included in the highlights of the events that for the JRC carried out in 2023. So we are also, this has also recognition at the highest level in the JRC and the European Commission. So, and this is just one of the latest steps of the activities trained in the area of capacity building that the JRC has been carrying out follows other training that were performed previous year about, for example, improving the abilities to report emission, which is it's a key activity in order to promote policies. So we need to know the information, and we need to support the institutions that are dealing with this. So, but this, of course, this is just a little, let's say, a little contribution in an ocean of needs. But I think at least we are trying to show the way, and we hope that this kind of thing will be repeated in the future and enlarged and extended to other countries and other universities.
Thanks, Claudia. Now we are approaching the end of the webinar, but I had mentioned that we will extend discussion for those of you who would like to stay a little bit longer. But before doing that, let me also ask myself a question or make a comment. My feeling is, and also listening to what Pavlina said, is that, that the weak part in the Western Balkans is the governance of if we talk about the green agenda implementation. We are 2024, there are well-defined goals up to 2030, and now you show us assessment of the progress up to now. If we look at the framework, it's only 30% ready and up to 50% ready, but this is only framework. And as I said, my feeling is that we need a really serious governance structure. And if we have such serious governance structure with policymakers and also different stakeholders, and this governance structure would be nice to have external experts like a JRC, because we can see a lot of report, a lot of data, but they are not policymaking based yet on that data. And I would like to ask you whether you agree on that. Moreover, you discussed about big envelope of money, 9 billion euro from European investment plan for the Western Balkans, which is part of this global gateway. And where Western Balkans is in absorbing the money at this stage, because it's actually meant to help green and digital transition. I know from some countries that it's a very, very weak absorption. And again, here I believe that every Western Balkan country has a good core of resources, but if you use that in a smart way, my feeling is a part of the very smart governance structure for implementation of this very serious, important agenda, which is our future, because if you don't do that, we will not be competitive to the rest of Europe, is that we need to really have a core of the so-called project office where you have skilled people who know how to write the project, how to seriously follow every stage of the project. So again, to stop it, it was like a bit more like comments, but I would like to ask your opinion. Do you see a recommendation for policymakers at the governance structure? You are unmuted. You're muted, actually. Sorry, George. You're muted again. You're muted.
I didn't hear the last part. It was some noise.
My question is, do you have a recommendation for policymakers? What would be the smart governance structure? And what would be the best way to absorb the money from European investment plan for Western Balkans? Because I even don't have the picture of out of 9 billion planned up to 2027, how much money was absorbed up to now? Because we always talk, everybody is talking about we need money, we need financing. The money is there, but
yes,
we have knowledge how to use that money.
Maybe also the question is, which are the priorities in each country? In energy sector, environmental protection, and so on. That is also maybe a good point.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. We really need a complex governance structure which covers the total Green Deal, and then you channel through the right.
Okay, I agree on that, but the answer is also complex.
Exactly. So I don't know what to do, because we are already now passing the board of the webinar. If you agree, we could still a little bit extend, and I don't want to keep you here if you plan just to stay for 40 minutes. But if you agree, I think we could just extend for maybe 5 minutes more and then finish webinar. If you would agree, then I ask Maria to ask question.
I agree.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Congratulations to Professor Djatkov for excellent presentation. I completely agree with all recommendations, and I will just want to add that we can use health as argument for all policies in the Green Deal, and maybe we should work more together with health in all policies as an argument when we, as you said, that it's very complex to make some priorities with the lens from health, just health consequences to population in Western Balkans. Thank you. That is all.
Yeah, you want Djordje to comment?
Yes, maybe shortly. That at the end of the day, everything is about the money. And Maria, in particular, worked together with Claudio, as far as I know, on the investigation how much air pollution costs country or due to impaired health or lives lost and so on. Then, starting from energy, air pollution, we come to health, and then at the end on the cost that the government or state needs to cover related to the years of life lost and so on.
Yeah, so are there any questions, other questions for Djordje? I don't see any. So Djordje, once again, thanks a lot for this great presentation, and thanks to everybody for participating in the discussion. Before closing, let me share with you a few more information. You see my screen, right? Yeah, okay. So before closing, I would like to invite you to register for those, of course, who did not yet do that, to register to B2Match platform, where you can network with the experts. But I also want to announce that we now created a special link, which is called Marketplace. And from this link, you can actually use the link for finding the partners, for calls, for creating different opportunities, and we will share all that information with you by the platform. I would also like to announce that thanks to the 3 regional experts we have in our project, Bojana, Maria, and Djordje, we will have reports ready to share with you. The report on digital transformation is already ready. We will distribute, and we expect by end of May to have a report on the green transition, and that will also be shared with you. I would also like to announce that the 4th webinar, which will take place on May 27, will be dedicated to the topic of European missions, which is an important policy instrument for alignment. On our EU Western Balkan platform, you can find all this information about the webinar and information of the next webinar, and all these previous webinars were recorded. You can there is a link to the video recording, and of course presentation can be also downloaded. So with that, I would like once again first to thank to Djordje and then to all of you participating in today's webinar. And I also would like to invite you to follow the Policy Answer activities on the Western Balkan Info Hub website. And if you have any information to share with us, or you want us to promote some information, please contact us. So with that, we now close the third webinar. And once again, thank you very much for participating. And I hope to see you soon in the next session. Thank you very much.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.